Hello, this is Lasting Conversations, and I am your host, Heather Lockett. Today, we have a very good friend of mine, Timi O'Malley, who is a wonderful human being and a lovely soul, and we've been friends for quite a while. She is an author of Consuming Love, and I'm going to let Timi share all about that. And she's also in the food service industry. And so we're going to be speaking about what's been happening in the last few years, especially since Timi and I last visited. So hi, Timi.
Hello, Heather. Thank you for having me. It's lovely
Thank,
to see you.
thanks so much for being here. And I have to say that as this podcast has launched, you came to mind really immediately because not only is it in the flavor of what we're going to be speaking about today, now that it's November, we're going to be ushering November and the whole sharing and giving holiday season, but when I first came up with the name Lasting Conversations years ago, you were the very first heart and like on my Facebook page. And then now, when I made my announcement about the Lasting Conversations podcast, you were the very first like and heart. So, of course, you're going to be one of my very first guests sharing this adventure with me. So, I just am sending you hugs from across the country, and thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I support your efforts in just sharing positivity and beauty and that which we love, the energy of hospitality, which we both have passions about. So it's fun to have these conversations and to help grow it.
Thank you so much. So tell us about your book. And there's a second book that we're going to touch on, a story that's been around for decades and decades, actually, Stone Soup. But tell us about you and what is it that you're doing in the world and about your lovely book.
Well, about 3 years ago, it's been 4 years now. I was inspired to write a book about my experiences in sharing meals with others, simply because it's been the activity that has brought me, first of all, the most joy, and it's helped me learn about myself and grow as an individual and really delve into the energy of sitting at a table and giving my full attention to the people that I'm with and the energy that's gone into the creation of the food and the sharing of the nourishment of that. It's an exchange of love when we sit at the table. And so I was inspired to write Consuming Love, the Joy of Sharing Meals from my own experience. And it was
Beautiful,
really, thank you. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful.
it was fun to sit down and remember and put the details into all of these wonderful experiences that I've had the pleasure of having instead of just letting them pass without giving honor and presence to the people that have shaped me as an individual and continue to shape me. And we continue to invite people to the table, even through this difficult time. As you mentioned, I am in the food service industry. I sell food to restaurants and operators that produce food for sale. And I work with some very talented chefs in the San Francisco Bay Area. They
Wonderful.
put they put an enormous amount of energy and joy into the presentation and preparation of the food they serve. And it struck me one day, not too long ago, that so many people are distracted by these small devices that we hold in our hands um, and social media
Mm-hmm.
that they oftentimes don't put those down to spend quality time with the people that are across the table from them.
Well, that is definitely a thing that has, I think the whole entire restaurant and food service industry has shifted in the course of time. And but stepping back when you're saying about San Francisco and chefs, that is a foodie town. It really is. And there are more and more, there are lots of places around the world that are, but I hear you especially about San Francisco and really how it must have taken a hit while California was doing its lockdowns and people were rethinking how they were eating, how are we feeding each other, and the art of putting food on plates and presenting them.
Yeah, it's very true. I think the hardest hit in the food service industry during the pandemic was the white tablecloth fine dining experience,
Mm.
and they had to shut their doors. Really, a very expensive steak or anything that's taking a great deal of time does not travel well when you're putting it in a to-go box, right?
Right,
So
right.
uh, they were hit the hardest for sure, but they're rebounding very strongly now that people are coming back. And it's really the industry itself really took a shift to the fast food operation and the to-go status of food.
Right.
How do you package that to go?
And
Now what I'm
maintain the flavor, the quality, and the love that perhaps someone has tried to put in
right.
to
And
each meal.
yeah, and so there's a cultural shift going on right now, and there's nothing wrong with it. It
Mm-hmm.
is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, what I'm seeing is a real craving for that experience of coming back to the table.
Exactly. So on that note, tell us some of your stories. I know you had one with your dad, just the muse and impetus for your book, which, if I recall, I have to say that your book, I was looking for it and it has moved on. I had a tea party with some women, and there was a giving table that we were putting out some jewelry and other books, and your beautiful stories have gone to another home. So, which actually kind of tickles me because this is what we do, right? We share and we give forth and we give back. But your book is a collection of vignettes and stories that is its own recipe in a beautiful meal in itself. So tell us more about that and share something about especially the international flavors, because these are stories from around the world.
Yes, that's very true. I have been blessed with the opportunity to spend quality time in other countries. One of those experiences took me to Oaxaca, Mexico, for 6 months, where I focused on the culture and uh, learning Spanish. And I was able to live with a family in Oaxaca, and the mamacita, she and I love to spend time in the kitchen together. And she taught me so many great things. Because I'm a foodie, I really focused on the plant aspects of the food that's indigenous to Oaxaca, mainly maize and peppers. And I made it a goal while I was there for 6 months to try as many peppers as I possibly could. And some of them were very enjoyable
I
and
was
some
going to
of them
say
were
even
not.
the hot even the hot ones.
Yeah, I think I surprised myself a few times, but she offered to teach me how to make mole, which was one of the most rich experiences that I could ever
Wonderful.
hope for, not only in the shopping for the ingredients, but the days that it took to prepare for the introduction of all the ingredients into a sauce. And then, of course, the rich, delicious sauce that's concentrated and can last for months. As you just all you have to do is water it down with some more tomatoes, and then it just you can extend its life through months by keeping it in the freezer. And I was able to bring some home, and I think I just enjoyed it for another year. But it
Wonderful.
took
Wow.
it took 3 days to make it. There were over 50 ingredients in this sauce, and she let me do the negotiations at the market for each of those ingredients. And then we painstakingly, with lots of love, created this sauce that is very integral to the Oaxacan culture. And Oaxaca is also a very foodie oriented culture. And the sauces range in flavor and color. And so she taught me her unique take on this, and it was a wonderful experience.
What an amazing time. And mole, just as you're describing, it's filled with so many ingredients, so many layers, and to do it right takes that time and experience. And that's just beautiful. That's really amazing. And tell us another story.
So, off the top of my head, I think my father was also an inspiration for me in my sharing of food because he has always been able to strike up a conversation with anybody, anywhere, anytime. And I remember as a young girl, we would be in a new place and he would immediately start a conversation with anybody that was there with him. And he had this capacity throughout my life of bringing together people to have a meal. And he taught me that potlucking is really an easy way to bring people together and they can share their favorite dishes, and it's not then the meal is no longer a burden necessarily. You can just open your doors and invite whomever wants to come and they bring whatever they want, and you end up with a fantastic opportunity to share.
A
And
wonderful array, an amazing assortment, and with a bit of mystery because maybe you don't know what's coming. And that's all so fun.
it opens you up to receive whatever is going to come, right?
Exactly.
And it can be just surprising and delicious, and then you find yourself meeting people and connecting with people that you might not necessarily had prior to if you had to plan a meal out, maybe you could only invite 6 people because there's 6 chairs at your table. Instead of just opening your doors and letting people sit wherever they want, introduce themselves, you've never met them before. And he did that throughout my life. And one of his traditions was a barbecue that he started at Lovers Point in Pacific Grove in California, which is where he lived from the time I was very young. And this event was very special, near and dear to his heart, because he was a beach volleyball player and anybody was welcome to play volleyball at this particular court. And people would come and they would go, and he made very deep friendships with people because they played together, right? They got competitive and they were physically active, and they would play for years and years, and they would watch their children be born, and they would go through divorces, and they would go through weddings, and so they saw over the years each other's lives change. And at this tournament that would happen each year at this event, my father would bring down his barbecue and people would bring food to share. And it grew and grew over the years. He did it for 40 years.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know, really. And
Wow. Oh, what a legacy.
it was a legacy. And at one point, I think it was year 38, he fed, out of the goodness of his heart, he fed well over 300 people.
Oh, my.
And he would joyously come to me and say, Timi, I've barbecued these appetizers, put them on a tray and go share them around the beach. And there's tourists there during the summer months. People from Europe are often there, or from Asia. And he would invite anyone and everybody to come and join us. And that was such a fun day, because these people from other parts of the world, they would say, "Oh, we've never experienced such hospitality anywhere before when we've traveled. This is just so much fun. It's such a joy to meet you." And sometimes they would come back year after year as well.
Would somebody get the hint that, oh my goodness, this gentleman we're about to have a beach party and come have some barbecue?
Yeah, right. And it grew and grew, and so people would come and look forward to this event each and every year. And it's he's not in a place physically any longer to continue to do this, but it's an event that remains very dear in the hearts of many, many friends. And the opportunity to create something new is with us now that COVID restrictions are opening, and it's time to get back to the table.
Exactly. And if it's at a beach or a picnic table or a mountaintop somewhere or a coffee shop, that's really what's key. So I love that story and for your dad. And that's been throughout your most of your whole life then. So what a beautiful experience to have Team Dad. Um, so what you were just talking about is reminding me of one of my very, very favorite childhood stories, Stone Soup. And there are lots of different versions of stone soup, which basically has to do with what you were just talking about, a communal potluck, what people have in their cupboard or in their larder, and they put it together kind of surprisingly, a surprise recipe, and then it's meant to be shared. So the version that I loved is from Marcia Brown, and she wrote this back in 1947. So when I was in kindergarten, we got to hear this on a record. The teacher would read it, but would also, in those times, it was like a book on tape via record. And her version is after the French Revolution, and there are these very tired, or World War II, as a matter of fact, tired French soldiers. They go into a village, but everybody else is a bit war torn and hungry. And so they've hidden their food stocks away and were very shy about sharing to these strangers. And then the notion of, well, but if we had a couple of stones, let's put them in a pot. Well, I have a pot. Well, if we had some carrots, well, I have some carrots. And there begins this amazing adventure of people letting down their guard, opening their doors, putting all these amazing ingredients that they do have into a communal pot, and then they eat and they marvel and they dance and they sing. And so her version is full of joy. There's many other versions. Of a friend of mine, I have another version called Stone Soup by Heather Forrest, as some gentleman just walking through the woods coming through a village. So there's many, many versions of this. And I, much like what you were describing with your dad, I think that you're right. There's a hunger. There is hunger. There is still hunger in the world, and there are still veterans that don't know where their next meal is. And in around the world, there's some very precarious times. And so this story ultimately is of joy and hope and sharing and community, that when we pull together what we have, we can then make a lovely soup and a lovely meal, and there's enough for everybody.
What a beautiful story. I love that so much. I love
Isn't
that.
that fun? So here we are in November, and it's my call to action would be for people to think about who they would want to share a meal with, who they might want to have their own version of a stone soup potluck, have a big picnic, have a table for two, invite some neighbors, go to an old folks home, go somewhere where you haven't met somebody before, and see what happens. Just open up your hearts and open up your kitchens and see what happens. And I think this month is a really wonderful time to do that. There are a lot of other opportunities to give to food banks. So while we're doing that, we can also include giving tables, whether it's of items, it's of foods, it's of gift cards to a grocery store, whatever it means to you for your local community and international community. I think this would be a lovely way to honor veterans and our fellow neighbors. So I'm going to be having a tea party. I'll be also going out and seeing about putting a picnic together. And I'm a beach girl. So living in Florida, I'm in bare feet. I miss fall and winter time, but I'm a barefoot girl. So what you just said about going out to the beach, we can see who's there to come and play. And is that something that you, in your community, do you guys do that? Do you go out to picnics? Are you seeing people having community meals together like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, where I live in Monterey, California, we're very active cultural community. We believe in dancing and enjoying music and going out to restaurants and enjoying ourselves, as well as opening our doors to friends and being of service to the community. I'm at a point in my life where our children are no longer living at home,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their own lives. and this Thanksgiving season, my husband and I will find ourselves being alone. And so I think it's a perfect opportunity to go and volunteer
Mm-hmm.
for the food bank community to serve meals on Thanksgiving days to those in need. And that will give me great joy. But yeah, we're very much in the part of our lives where we want to invite others to share. We want to be hospitable.
Mm-hmm.
This is a word that has been coming up for me a lot lately, and it's this joy of giving, right? That it's that energy. And I know, Heather, you and I are very much students of life and are very interested in the concept of energy and the energy that we bring to this life. And I certainly want to be as generous of spirit and generous of time and have the ability to give of myself as much as I can to
Mm-hmm.
others. And in my community, there is the need. There's homelessness and there is hunger, and that isn't okay with me. Maybe people choose to be homeless, but I would much prefer that any person have the opportunity to sleep in a warm bed, to eat a warm meal on a cold night, and anything and everything that I can do personally to contribute to that, to make sure that that is a part of the experience, that everybody is offered a warm place to sleep and offered the opportunity to have a full belly and feel nourished is it's something very near and dear to my heart. And I luckily work for a very benevolent company that also believes in this type of generosity of spirit, and they're very generous to the homeless population and those that are feeding them. And I feel very lucky to be a part of that. It's important that we give of ourselves completely and utterly. And what comes back is more than can be measured anytime, right?
Always, always. It's amazing, and in ways that we don't know in in the given moment, except for that thank you and a smile and knowing that somebody is feeling nourished. So yes, sorry, continue what you were saying.
Yeah. So this is the season of harvest. It's the season of abundance. And so it is a perfect time to welcome that which gives us all warmth and joy. And that's we spend a lot of time doing that, my husband and I feel very blessed to live in such a community and have the opportunity to be as giving as possible. So I'm sorry you're so far away. We could get together and just share a meal ourselves sometime. That would be fabulous, and I'm sure it will happen in the future.
It sure will with more travel, but you know what? We're visiting right now. We're on Zoom. We can see each other while we're chatting, and that is a beautiful thing as well. And there are ways of still commuting together. If, as a matter of fact, my Thanksgiving last year, and my daughter just had her birthday, we get together and we have Zoom holiday. And so that works too. It's just so technology meets the human aspect. It can be a lot of fun, and especially for people who are in different parts of the world. Um, so your company, I think you tapped into a question that I was going to ask in terms of the moving forward, in terms of what's happening now, that people are gathering together more often, restaurants are opening, and so there's hope. There's always hope. In the storm, a storm passes, and then we get to move on, and it's okay to sing and dance and offer that hope. So perhaps tell us a little bit more about your company or what you're doing in that kind of realm to be that bridge, really, of here's some nourishment, and also here's the hope and the fun.
Well, I work for a food service distributor, a broadline distributor, and so I sell food to people who produce food.
Mm-hmm.
And what has struck me through this difficult, challenging years is how we've all come together to support each other through this difficult time. It's been uh, Prior to COVID, a lot of my customers had very strict specs.
Mm-hmm.
And, I give them kudos for having that. And yet we've had to work through distribution channel challenges
Mm-hmm.
and high inflation, and everybody's got the same excuse, right? There's not enough labor, there's not enough raw materials, there's challenge after challenge after challenge. And so we've had to teach ourselves that together we can be quite flexible and
Right.
malleable, and we don't have to be as rigid as we thought we had to be prior to COVID. And so it's been a really enriching experience in a lot of ways as well, that it's taught us to be very flexible and creative. And
And
so what I
creative. Yep.
and creative, right? Open to what is offered and see what we can do with it and come up with great ideas together, work together instead of working separately and alone. And so I have great hope that there's going to be a cycle of innovation that's going to come through this entire experience that's going to help re-engage and reinvigorate. And it's an exciting time. I see right now innovation in food service that I've never seen before. And
Really.
it's really it's an exciting time to be a part of the industry, even though it's been painful for the past 3 years. I can't wait to see where it's coming, where it's going. And it's just, look at one segment of, I'm personally a vegetarian and have been for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been my choice to eat fruits and vegetables and grains. And I don't judge anybody who has different dietary choices. It's their choice. We all have very different needs
Mm-hmm.
and likes
Yep.
and desires. But I'm noticing a huge uptick in the plant-based alternatives to meats, where it's offering meat eaters very delicious alternatives that perhaps they can incorporate into their diets to help the environment. Right?
Right.
There's a huge disconnect between the amount of resources that are necessary to raise meat proteins as opposed to plant proteins. And so, in an effort to make an impact in supporting the environment and being able to feed the world's populations, this is an interesting development in the uptick in innovation that's going on in this segment. And over the past 3 years, have noticed a larger section of the grocery store in the meat department is being given to these plant-based alternatives, and I think it's fascinating. So, American culture has always been so innovative, especially in the food segment. Over the years of our history, the innovation that's gone on, especially after World War II,
Mm-hmm.
is always changing and evolving, and I personally am happy to see this type of scientific innovation going on to make it possible to feed the world with a lot less resources. So
That's very cool. And innovation, creativity, to be malleable, to be open, resourceful, moving with the flow, going to what is available. That all sounds quite amazing. And then internationally, as we know, one of the things that I notice here in America, yes, we mostly grew up very meat and potatoes, but we're so multicultural that those are the shelves that I keep seeing expand more and more is from Thailand and Asia and Mexico and Poland and all places around the world, and that every person within these cultures also have very differing dietary necessities and likes and spices and all of that. So this is what is also exciting to me as well, is to be innovative, to try new things, and really experiment. A whole industry in the restaurant world is fusion. We can put these different cultures together. So it is a very exciting time. And you are also correct in how we then can be sustainable for the world, for the world's population. And again, there's enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody if we are creative and innovative to make sure that belly is full and nourished. So we can segue from that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, you just think about how magnificent it is that our planet provides us with everything we need.
Everything.
Everything we need. And so if we can honor our planet and support her in doing that and allowing us to it nourishes my heart and soul to really just think about the diversity that is offered to us to nourish our bellies and our taste buds and satisfy our desire for new taste all the time, right? I mean, like, I have a Korean friend who has opened me to Korean cuisine, and that is so different from anything that I had ever had before, with all of the different picklings and you just it's magnificent that and he's from a region in North Korea where they were so much a part of the land that they had to come up with innovative ways to have their produce last a long time. So they actually pickled things so that it would have a longer shelf life. And it's just, you think about how connected we are to the land, and yet we're in such a time where we're a world population that can travel in an instant. And so when we go to the grocery store, are we connected to the land? Do we know where our food comes from? Did those blueberries come from Argentina on a plane because I have to have them year round, or did they come from my neighbor's backyard? It's going to be interesting to see if, as a culture, as a people, we get back to the land a little bit more than we have over the past 60 years, right? It'll be interesting.
It is, and it's exciting to see more and more green markets opening up. We're seeing many more organic growers here in Florida, and it's a bit of a tough climate to grow some things in that same organic way. But there's more of that. And again, that gets to community where people are seeing each other. They come out on a Saturday, Sunday, and it's very homegrown and it's lovely. And that these small micro businesses are also selling to the local stores. So, and on it goes. So this is an exciting time, and it's very grassroots. And of course, the folks that are going back to growing in their yards, are growing on their balcony and having like a little tomato plant or their microgreens in their living room, all kinds of fun and innovative ways to have fun and to try new things and to have that bit of land in any form that they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so fun. Well, you and I can chat forever, and we will do it again sometime. And your book, it's still on Amazon, Consuming Love, is that correct?
Consuming Love, The Joy of Sharing Meals. Yes, it is available on Amazon. And I enjoyed writing it, and I hope that some of you may enjoy reading it. It was a pleasure, and it's always so much fun to connect with you, Heather, and I very much appreciate and humbled and honored for this opportunity to chat about community and the joy of sharing meals.
Thank you, Timi. It's always such a wonderful time with you. And listen, everybody, have a potluck. Have your own version of stone soup. And for heaven's sakes, give back. Find somebody who needs a little something, needs a hug, a hot coffee, a meal, or more. And thank you for listening. And please make sure to follow, like, review, and share the show. And if you'd like to be part of the conversation, send emails to podcasts@lastingconversations.com. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything. Thanks, Timi.
Thank you, Heather.